Welcome to day 2 of dynamic mark making. In the previous session, we learned that every line and mark you make is going to serve two purposes. The first is to help represent the object you're drawing, but the second is to communicate some kind of an idea or an emotion about your subject or whatever you're feeling at the time. And I also talked about the idea that we cannot help but do this. However you're thinking or whatever you're feeling about your subject or whatever you're feeling in general, in some way is going to come through in your line quality. So today what we're going to do is explore how to take control of this and how to try and communicate specific ideas and emotions through line work. Now, it's important to remember that the lines and marks we're going to be drawing today are going to be abstract instead of representational. So what that means is if I ask you to draw a particular emotion, like anger, I don't want you to draw angry eyes or an angry face, because that would be representational. That's a drawing that's trying to depict a specific object or image. But we want to draw lines that are abstract, lines that appear to have characteristics that are angry or happy or sad without trying to draw a particular picture. So I'm going to get right into a demonstration today of attempting to communicate a specific emotion through a line. For today's project, we're going to keep the materials very, very simple. You'll see me using an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and a black pencil, but really any paper or any drawing materials will work. First, we need to select an emotion. For this demonstration, let's use the feeling of nervousness. Before I start drawing, I'll ask myself a series of questions. These questions will help me translate this emotion into line. Remember, people tend to empathize with and anthropomorphize lines. So what happens in your body when you feel nervous? We've also learned that the quality of a line can be similar to tone of voice. So what happens to your voice when you feel nervous? What adjectives would you use to describe the feeling of nervousness? Now, ask yourself how you can take the answers to all of these questions and translate them into line. Would your nervous line be big on the page or small? Would it be made of light lines or dark lines? Would a nervous line be made of a hard-edged line, or perhaps a softer, hazier kind of line? It's important to remember that there is no one right answer to these questions. Everybody experiences these emotions a little bit differently, and we should expect that everyone will draw them differently. It's also important to remember that the solution you come up with doesn't have to be a single line. It can be an entire collection of lines and marks. After asking myself a series of questions and giving it some thought, I'm now ready to attempt my nervous line. When I get nervous, I don't feel confident or bold. I feel small. Therefore, my line should be small. Depending on how nervous I am, my voice and body can start to shake. Often when I get nervous, I feel a little confused. I'm not quite sure what I should do or say or where I should go. I've attempted to put all of these characteristics into a single line. Of course, you may experience nervousness differently than I do, but this line begins to reflect how I feel when I'm nervous. For the first part of your project today, you're going to leave the video running while I lead you through an exercise. Just as you saw me demonstrate, you're going to hear me give you an emotion, and you're going to have a little over a minute to try and draw that motion abstractly through lines and marks. I'm going to ask you to only draw one emotion per page, and that way you can really explore the emotion, and also you can consider the placement on the page. Also, I want you to remember that you don't have to limit yourself to a single line. You can have a whole collection of lines and marks. There are really no wrong ways to do this project, and I really want you to feel comfortable to explore and experiment. First, I'm going to ask you to make an angry line. Before you draw, try asking yourself the same series of questions I asked myself before I made my nervous line. What does anger feel like in the body? What does anger sound like in your voice? Will your angry line be big on the page or small? Will it be hard-edged or softer? Will it have a lightness to it, or will it be heavier and dark? What other adjectives would you use to describe the feeling of anger? After giving it some thought, make your mark whenever you're ready. And remember, it doesn't just have to be a single line. It can be a collection of lines and marks if you want. There isn't a single correct solution. There's no wrong way to do this project. I simply want you to explore how a single line can attempt to communicate a specific emotion. Just a little bit longer. If you feel you need more time, feel free to pause this video and resume whenever you're finished. Next, draw a line or a collection of lines that appear to be calm. Remember, I'm giving you a little over a minute, but please feel free to pause the video if you feel you need more time. Draw whenever you're ready. Next, draw a sad line. My students report that it can be helpful to try and actually feel these emotions before drawing a line. And finally, make an excited line, a line that appears joyous and ecstatic. How does excitement feel in your body? And how does this translate to line? Just a little bit longer. In every beginning drawing class I teach, I lead students through this exact same exercise after giving them the same prompts that you've been given in this video. And I'm surprised to find that even though everybody experiences these emotions a little differently and everybody depicts them differently on the page, how many similarities there are between students' depiction of these emotions. So now I'm going to show you a series of these emotional lines that students have done in my other classes. I'd like you to pay particular attention to the similarities and the differences between how people depicted these emotions. And I'd also like you to compare your own solutions to these emotions to see how yours relate and how they're different. Now, obviously, I'm not there with you and I can't see what you've drawn, but I imagine that you'll be rather surprised at some of the similarities between your work that you just produced and the images I'm about to show you. Lines that depict anger tend to be dark, aggressive, and harsh. While drawing angry lines, it's not uncommon for students to actually break the drawing materials they're using because they're pressing so hard. Angry lines often appear jagged and dangerous. These lines often loom large on the page. If students choose to use color, they often select either black or red. Although each of these angry lines is unique, they do share some striking similarities with one another. And we as viewers can often sense the rage coming off the page. When asked to draw calm lines, students tend to take a very different approach. They often draw soft, subtly curving lines that move from one side of the page to the other. Many viewers can sense that these calm lines were drawn more slowly and more delicately. One of the more common elements we see in sad lines is the line descending and dissipating as it falls. Again, each of these lines is unique, but there are some surprising similarities between them. These similarities illustrate that although we can never fully control or predict how the viewer will interpret a line, we have far more control than we often realize. The excited lines are often drawn with a burst of energy. Notice that the page can hardly contain them. They have a speed and spontaneity that is exciting to the eye. After going through this exercise, students will often be convinced that emotions can be communicated through line, but express doubt that artists are actually using them for this purpose. But compare these abstract, excited lines shown here to Rembrandt's lines in this drawing. They demonstrate a remarkable similarity that showcases Rembrandt's absolute love for drawing as well as his joy and passion for the subject. Now let's revisit this student example of an angry line and compare it with this master drawing by Tintoretto, whose expressive line work gives an aggressive tension to this writhing figure. For today's project, I'd like you to continue exploring what it means to try and translate an emotion into line. Now, there are many ways you can do this. You can go through the same exercise that I led you through today. I would even encourage you to try and bring family or friends into this project to see the similarities and differences with how they go through these emotions. One of the important ideas in art is to continue to push an idea further and further, and this is a great opportunity to do that. So what I mean is that you can try this exercise again, but see if you can make your angry line look even angrier, your excited line to look even more excited, and you can try to show these to family and friends to see how they react to these. See if they can tell a difference between your angry line and your excited line, or between your sad line and your calm line. Well, have fun with this project today, and remember, this is the creative, expressive side of drawing. There are really no wrong ways to do this, and I want you to feel comfortable being creative with how you're exploring these lines and emotions. Well, have fun with this project, and I will see you again for day 3.